Evening, and welcome to the August 8th, 2015 Town Board meeting for the Town of Ossining. What did I say? August. Oh, at least I didn't say another month. Okay, let's start over. It is the September 8th, 2015 Town Board meeting for the Town of Ossining. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Harder?
Present.
Councilman Wilshire?
Present.
Councilman Blaha?
Present.
And Supervisor Donnelly.
Present.
And this evening, we have a special presentation for the Purple Hearts Reunited for Private John R. Clark.
So I'm going to start, and we're going to let some very exciting young men tell us a little bit about the history and everything that has to do with what we're doing here tonight, which is reuniting a Purple Heart with our community. I want to welcome the Purple Heart United and the Department of Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 1782, in conjunction with Chapter 21. It's a mouthful. There's a lot of information here, but we don't want to take the wind out of any of the sails, so it's my pleasure, and I would ask each of you to come up to the mic. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. William Nazaro. I know I'm going to say it wrong. The National Senior Vice Chairman of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. Sir, may you come up? And I know I said your last name wrong, so I do apologize. After all that.
Okay. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here with Captain Zach Fight and the Purple Heart Reunited. That is an offshoot of our order, Military Order of the Purple Heart. We are a not-for-profit organization advocating on behalf of veterans. It's an honor also to
Get a little bit closer.
Sure. It's also an honor to bring this Purple Heart home. I have a deep sense of gratitude toward our World War II vets, America's greatest generation. When I was in Vietnam, all I thought about was their sacrifices and how much they endured, and that gave me a lot of strength and hope. And coming home and seeing a lot of them passing, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of history there. If there's a World War II veteran in your community, reach out to them, or a Korean War veteran for that matter. They have a lot to share. This nation itself was galvanized by the greatest generation. Families came together in support of this nation. You can look in the history books and you'll see that a nation to come together the way this country did in World War II was something rare. It is an honor to be here to present Private Clark's Purple Heart Medal. Too many of them are falling into the wrong hands. People are actually making money on them. See them in pawn shops. And that's not what it's about. And historically, they should be treasured. I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity on behalf of National Headquarters of the Military Order Purple Heart. Thank you, and God bless America.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry about that. I'd like to introduce Richard Gerbeth. He is the Deputy National Sergeant at Arms for the Military Order of the Purple Heart and an Iraqi vet.
Good evening. My name is Richard Gerbeth Jr.
I'm the National Assistant Sergeant at Arms for the Department of New York, the Junior Vice Commander, and also the Chapter Commander of 1782, the Badge of Military Merit. With me today is our Senior Vice Commander, Richard Drago. Our Junior Vice Commander, Ken Dwyer, is not able to be with us today. He is definitely here in spirit. When Private Clark's medal was first brought to our attention, Vice Commander Drago and I asked Ken to take the lead on this, and this is the culmination of his efforts. I'm going to go off script here for a minute because I don't get the opportunity to do this very often. I was National Guardsman, and I was attached to Alpha Company, 2nd 108th Infantry out of Camp Smith. We got attached to 1st Infantry Division for Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2004. And tonight, one of my soldiers is here with me. He was in my squad, and his name's James Costanis. And he served with me bravely and valiantly on many dangerous missions, and now he's one of Ossinings's finest. He's a police officer here, and I'd just like to give him some recognition. Thank you. Military Order of the Purple Heart mission statement is to foster an environment of goodwill and camaraderie among combat wounded veterans, promote patriotism, support necessary legislative initiatives, and most importantly, provide service to all veterans and their families. The Military Order of the Purple Heart vision statement is to undertake a proactive representation in all forms of public opinion that will consistently seek to improve the status of its veteran members, their dependent families, and survivors. So what does that all mean to me? And why does the Military Order of the Purple Heart have a vested interest to be here today? We are here today because every Purple Heart matters, and one Purple Heart is just as important as the next. It doesn't matter what the war was or is. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not, because it's not about the war. It's about the warrior. I feel it is my obligation to live by the MOPH mission statement every day, especially in promoting patriotism and providing service to all veterans and their families. That is exactly what we are doing here today by bringing Private John R. Clark's medal back to his birthplace in Ossining, New York. This undertaking is being carried out by the unwavering dedication of one of our Patriot members that I am very proud to call a friend. In addition to being a United States Army captain, as you know, Zachariah Fike has made it his life's mission to return lost or stolen military medals, mostly Purple Hearts. What you may not know is that we at the MOPH are so proud to have Captain Zachariah Fike on board as of August 2014 as a national officer like myself. He's the National Director of the MOPH Medal Recovery Program. We are lucky to have Patriot members like him in our ranks. On behalf of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, I thank all of you for being here tonight. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Senior Vice Commander of Chapter 21, Eugene Lang.
Good evening. My name is Eugene Lang. You might remember me from 2013 when I was in front of your board accepting the proclamation making Ossining a Purple Heart town. I'm glad to be back here again. The Purple Heart is an American oldest military decoration. Its history goes back to August 7th, 1782, when General George Washington created the Badge of Military Merit at his headquarters in Newburgh, New York. The award was a Purple Heart-shaped piece of cloth or silk. It was awarded for a single deserving act of honor. Although Washington wanted it to be a permanent award, it was all but forgotten after the American Revolution. During World War I, General John Pershing called for a creation of a merit-based award for soldiers. However, it was not until 1932 that such an award was created. On February 22nd, 1932, the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, Chief of Staff Douglas MacArthur signed the order creating the modern Purple Heart. The Purple Heart is awarded to members of the armed forces of the United States who are wounded by an instrument of war in the hands of the enemy. It is also awarded posthumously to the next of kin in the name of those who are killed in action, died of wounds received in action, or died as a prisoner of war while in captivity, especially a combat decoration. An organization now known as the Military Order of the Purple Heart was formed in 1952 for the protection and mutual interest of all who have received the decoration, composed exclusively for Purple Heart recipients. It is the only veterans service organization comprised strictly of combat veterans. And I thank you, and remember one thing, please, freedom is not free. I always like to say that at the end. Thank you. And I'd like to present Captain Fike.
How's everybody doing?
Great, thank
I'm
you.
more lively. I came from Vermont. I don't get back to New York very often, so I'm a New York boy, so anytime I can get back to this great state's a good thing.
Welcome.
So nice meeting you all. Thanks for having us here. Those are tough acts to follow, so I'll keep my statement short because they pretty much said everything. Like they said, I am a Purple Heart recipient. I am a proud member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and I am their National Officer of the Medal Recovery Program. Some of you have already asked, what is Purple Hearts Reunited, and are these medals really being found across the United States? Well, Purple Hearts Reunited is a nonprofit foundation started by myself in 2012. Essentially what we do is return lost or stolen, yes, stolen, military artifacts, but primarily Purple Heart medals either to the veterans who earned them or their families. Since we started, we've returned over 150 medals to date across the country. We currently have 400 medals we're trying to return. We receive roughly 3 to 5 medals a week in the mail, most times unannounced. Where are these medals being found? They're being found in old abandoned homes, vehicles, furniture. Metal detector enthusiasts are finding them buried in the ground. One of my favorite stories, last year, a dog 10 years ago found a medal while digging in the backyard. She was just a puppy, 6 months old. The people who had the dog kept the medal for about a decade, finally found out about our organization. We were able to find that veteran's daughter. That dog became the first dog in our history to return a Purple Heart. So definitely pulls at the heartstrings a little bit. But if you can envision it, these medals are being found. Just recently a Broadway show, so someone must have brought that with them and dropped it on the floor. Regardless, these medals deserve a home, a proper home. And that's what our organization does. Typically, these are posthumous medals, which means the names are engraved on the back. And through that name, we're able to do that historical research, find out who the veteran was, where they served, and then ultimately get down to the family level and find, hopefully, a living descendant. In this case, with Private Clark, it was a little bit different. We were actually contacted by his family, a nephew. Problem is, he's the last living survivor of that family. Not doing great health-wise, and he said, basically, I'm going to be gone very soon. My biggest fear is that this medal is going to fall into the wrong hands. What he meant was fall into a collector's hands. Believe it or not, there's roughly 3 million collectors across our country that are actively pursuing these medals. They buy them and trade them like baseball cards. The average posthumous Purple Heart goes for around $300. So his medal here today would go for around probably $150, $200 because he did survive the war, but he was a Purple Heart recipient. If you can tie some historical significance to that medal, i.e. Audie Murphy, everyone familiar with Audie Murphy? His medal would probably go for $100,000 on the open market. It's a shame that people put a price on a symbol that means so much to us. You know, like I said before, the symbol of a soldier who either shed their blood or their lives so that we could be a free nation. We need to raise these veterans, these fallen heroes, on a pedestal every day. Forget about the celebrities, forget about the Hollywood actors. It's the gentlemen that are sitting behind me that we should idolize. These are Americans' heroes, and I think we've lost sight of that. But this foundation is attempting to bring that to the forefront and honor a man, one of your own. And and I think I've already asked this question, how many of you knew Private Clark before this day? Who knew that he was one of your own people from this town, born and raised? Exactly. And that's why we're here today, to bring him back to life, bring him back to this town so that we never forget him and his sacrifice. And I challenge you all today to speak of his name. Every Memorial Day, make sure you read his name and never forget the man. But we're here today to bring Private Clark home, honor his memory so that he's never forgotten. And at this time, I'd like to invite the Historical Society Director up. You want to say a few words first, sir, before we do the presentation? All right, so I'm going to ask Mr. Nazario to come up. I'm going to grab the frame, sir. If you would help me, I'd love to present Dr. Clark's medals back to the town. On behalf of the military order, Purple Heart, and Purple Hearts Reunited.
And they go to the mic, wants them to get to the mic.
Go to the mic.
We can make this work. Flexible. All right, sir. How about you get in the middle, right there? How's that? So on behalf of the Military Order of the Purple Heart and Purple Hearts Reunited, it's a great honor to bring home Private Clark to this town so that he's never forgotten. Sir, please honor his sacrifice and protect this medal with your life.
It's an honor to accept this on behalf of the Clark family, and as president of the Austin Historical Society, make a home for it. We have a war room. Be a nice piece to have there. Many visitors stop up to see what we have up there. You should stop by sometime. Thank you very much on behalf of John Ray Clark.
Something we like to do here at these ceremonies is capture the moment. And if I could ask you, if you want to pull out your combs and brushes, do your hair really quick. If we could do a group photo, maybe with the signs behind us. So we'll have everybody here that's in the crowd, if you're not shy, to come forward. And if we could do a big group photo, that would be wonderful. Oh, don't be shy. You're from the town, you're involved. We all like each other. Get everybody. Everybody look this way and smile. Private Clark.
Very proud of it.
That's a good place. I'd rather be in Savannah. I'll tell you what.
it was very exciting having these gentlemen here. And it just happens that they're all gentlemen. This doesn't make it, you have to be a gentleman. Look at that. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight. I think this was a wonderful way to start a meeting. I wish we could start a meeting like this every week with something exciting like that. Yeah. And it was a pleasure communicating all those times with you and stuff. Zach. So, starting at this point, we're going to move forward and we're going to do our public hearings. We do want to make one statement before the public hearings start. It has been determined that the public hearings will continue to be, what's the word?
They will be adjourned.
Adjourned. I wanted to make sure I used the right word. Adjourned. And the next date of the next public opening of these public hearings will be September 22nd, after the board has occasion to speak on these issues again at the September 15th work session. So while we're going through the process of tweaking these laws, we are more than happy to keep this public hearing and feel it's our obligation to keep these public hearings going. With that, Madam Clerk?
Okay, we're up at the public hearing, the matter of local law number 5, 2015. Is there anyone here who's come to address the board?
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it is.
Please read the local law too, okay, first? Okay. That's the amending notification provisions of the town code?
Yes. Is there
Okay.
anyone to discuss this with the board? Not seeing it, may I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to September 22nd?
Motion to adjourn public hearing till September 22nd.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next public hearing is the matter of local law number 6, amending the tree protection chapter of the town code. Is there anyone here who's come to address this issue? Not seeing anyone, may I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to September 22nd?
Motion to adjourn this hearing till September 22nd.
Or a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, our next public hearing in the matter of local law number 7, amending the freshwater wetlands watercourse and water bodies protection chapter of the town code. Is there anyone who's come to address the board on this issue? Okay. Please state your name and your residential address.
My name is Gareth Huffam. I live at 53 Old Albany Post Road in Ossining.
Gary, could you speak up into the...
Gareth Huffam, 53 Old Albany Post Road,
Thank you.
Ossining. Good evening. I would like to read a statement about the proposed local law on the wetlands. I'll be paraphrasing from an email I sent earlier today. Dear Supervisor Connolly and the Town Board, what did I say? I didn't. Sorry. Donnelly, I know you, Sue. I applaud most of the changes in the proposed new wetland regulations. However, there is a problem with the current proposed version. The main issue, I believe, is that in the proposed version number 2, only watercourses of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation classes A, B, and C are protected, whereas in the original version, all watercourses, no matter how small, were technically protected. So this is a step in the wrong direction in this instance. An example of the impact of the proposed regulation is that it would exempt the Highview Farm wetland discharge streams from buffer protections, since none of them are classified as New York State DEC A, B, or C. I checked. I went to the DEC website where you can see the classification of different streams, and it was not classified any of those. That's just one example. I understand the motive that drainage ditches not be subjected to buffer zone restrictions, which is reasonable for reasons of practicality and the balancing of private property rights against the public good. Though it could be argued that such drainage ditches are just as important because fertilizers and pesticides washing into a drainage ditch without the protection of an absorptive buffer will still end up in the main stream and ultimately in the Hudson River. See an analogy which I add in the PS, which I'll read. The solution, though, so even though that's a reasonable concern, the solution, removing all protections from waterways, small waterways, is not reasonable. I would like to propose adding language that, quote, all waterways smaller than Class A, B, or C, including temporary drainage ditches, are required to be treated with all the same protections of Class A, B, and C waterways except buffer setbacks. This is to include prohibitions of pollution discharges and the design requirements of road and driveway crossings to allow migration of aquatic animals. At the least, I think that driveway and road crossings of such small waterways need to be required to be designed to allow this migration, by ensuring that all culverts conform to the DEC guidelines, which can be summarized as all crossings should, whenever practicable, have a natural bottom, and when a non-natural bottom is deemed essential and a culvert pipe is used, that it be non-perched, that means that it not have a waterfall at the end, with the upstream side buried 40% in the stream bed and the downside buried 20%. Please consider making this small but important modification to the proposed new wetland regulations. The PS is, please allow me an analogy. Regarding small waterways as less important is like discounting the importance of capillaries to the bloodstream, whereas it is precisely there that nearly all transport of molecules take place because of the huge surface area to volume ratio. Drainage ditches are the capillaries collecting most of the chemical runoff from the land that eventually runs into the Hudson River. So small waterways really deserve protection because that's where most pollution is collected and transferred to the Hudson. So please consider those changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
May I have your written
Can I,
statement?
May we have a copy of that?
He has an email, and I have a copy for you. And I have a copy for you for
I have
tonight.
a question for Mr. Huffam.
Public hearing.
I just wanted to ask.
What?
Given your point of view, have you approached the DEC with your analogy?
Not with that analogy, although I've spoken with the DEC concerning this language, and I told them that I was going to be presenting that to this board, and I wanted to get their unofficial, if nothing else, agreement that the summarizing of their guidelines was accurate, and they did agree that that was a good summary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board on this issue? Not seeing any, may I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to September the 22nd?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is a public hearing in the matter of local law number 8 of 2015, amending the steep slope protection chapter of the town code.
My name is Wendy Masterman. I live at 10 Morningside Court, Ossining. I would like to address the issue of steep slopes. Until March of 2013, I was totally unaware of what a steep slope was, and much less that there were town codes protecting them. And then I learned about the plan to create cluster homes behind my home, otherwise known as Highview Farm. With a very large slope behind my next-door neighbor's home and adjacent to mine, I decided it was time to take a crash course in steep slopes. I began by reading Town Code Chapter 167, which states, "Protection of steep slopes is a matter of concern to the entire town. Once a steep slope is disturbed, that disturbance is, for all practical purposes, irreversible. The establishment of regulatory and conservation practices to prevent disturbance of steep slopes is needed to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. Experience has demonstrated a need for effective protection of steep slopes, including careful review and regulation and the implementation of stringent mitigation measures where, in the opinion of the approval authority, no practicable alternative to such disturbance exists. And this is a quote from the town code. I later learned that the slope in our backyard is 40 feet tall, the highest point in the town of Ossining. Any disturbance to this slope could be disastrous. This qualifies as an extremely steep slope. I also learned that there were other steep slopes throughout the property. Very quickly, a group of concerned citizens got together to ensure that this property would not be overdeveloped. We called ourselves the Concerned Citizens of Ossining, and in May of this year I was asked to be the chair. At last week's public hearing, Mr. Adam Weckstein spoke about steep slopes as they relate to Highview Farm. He stated that this project's opposition, from their perspective, has morphed into these changes, particularly number 7 and 8. I do not believe this is true, but if our persistence in bringing environmental concerns to light has spurred our lawmakers to update these codes, then I am pleased to have been a part of it. I hope that the board will not allow itself to be bullied with threats of a lawsuit. I commend you again for making these changes.
Ms. Masterman, may I have your statement, please?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board on this issue?
Good evening. My name is David Gordon, and I'm an attorney representing the concerned citizens of Ossining. I have a written comment. I can hold it. Thank you, Madam Supervisor. My name is David Gordon. Got it now? And I'm an attorney representing the concerned citizens of Ossining. I had previously submitted written comments on these 5 proposals together, and I would ask my comments to be considered for all 5 to the planning board in its consideration of its comments to you. And I've adapted those written comments for the town board's consideration of these local laws, and I'd like to distribute those. And then I have certain oral comments relating to numbers 8 and 9 in particular. As I mentioned, these are very similar to the comments that went to the planning board. Hopefully you may have seen them already. They would be slightly adapted for this board. But I do want to address in a little bit greater detail numbers 8 and 9, local laws number 8 and 9. And in particular, I want to just take a few minutes to address the comments that you heard at your last meeting from Attorney Adam Weckstein for Zappico. Mr. Weckstein made a number of points. I think he spoke for about 10 minutes. And essentially, he very clearly threatened the board with a lawsuit, and he described some of the aspects of that lawsuit, and I just want to make a couple of comments on it. In particular, what he told the board, and what he also wrote in his written comments to the planning board that I was able to review, is that these laws would effect an unconstitutional reduction in the availability of affordable housing in the town. And he essentially told you that when you do something like this, you run the risk of a number of very bad consequences, including not only having the law overturned by the New York State Supreme Court, but also eventualities such as attorney's fees, etc. What he did not tell you, and he also mentioned certain examples where that had happened in Westchester County, and he also alluded that his firm, or the predecessor of his firm, had been responsible for some of them. The last part is true. But what I'd like to point out to the board is that the types of local laws that were passed and that ran into the legal difficulty were different than what the board is considering here. What you're considering here is really a local environmental law. If you have steep slopes, if you have wetlands, certain things happen. But it relates to having steep slopes, having wetlands. The types of laws in the cases that Mr. Weckstein was alluding to were land use laws, comprehensive plan amendments, zoning amendments. And in particular, what they ended up doing was wiping out, either wholly or in part, the zoning permission for multifamily housing. In the case, for example, that he cited, that I think a predecessor of his firm handled in the town of North Salem, if I remember the statistic, the local law at issue there would have zoned out of existence 60% plus of the multifamily residential housing in the town of North Salem. That was, I forget the name of the case. It goes back to the mid-90s. In a case that happened a couple of years ago, with the Landmaster case in Orange County, that ordinance wiped out multifamily housing in the town of Montgomery. These are land use laws that alter the zoning or alter the comp plan and have a devastating effect on multifamily housing. One thing that I found noticeable about Mr. Wechsling's comments, and I commented on this in the letter to the planning board and to you, is that given the fact that this is an environmental law, and he's here essentially alleging that you're going to have these unconstitutional impacts on multifamily housing, he presents no evidence of that. There's no study showing if you make the wetlands less developable or you make steep slopes, very steep slopes, undevelopable, you've wiped out 10%, 20%, 30%, 80% of the multifamily housing. There's no evidence of it. He's just saying it. And he's threatening you with saying it. And he's alluding that, in most of his comments, to be honest, he's saying, you may be doing this. Well, I don't think that a law that protects steep slopes or protects wetlands is wiping out 60, 70, 80% of the multifamily housing in this town. And he has no evidence of that. And that's the single most important point I want to convey to you. The second one is that he also alluded to another case, going back to the town of Cortland in the early 90s, where that town passed the steep slopes law, and it was sued, and the law was overturned. The short message in that case is that it was not a constitutional case, and it did not relate to multifamily housing or affordable housing, and it did not result in attorney's fees. It was simply a case where the town was held to not properly studied the impacts under seeker. It was a seeker violation case, and so the law was thrown out, but it was like any other seeker case. If you want, you can redo it. You just do a better environmental study. The point there that he was raising, which is correct, is that in a strange twist, which probably your lawyer can explain to you, although seeker reviews the possibility of adverse environmental impacts, and although you're passing a law which is going to improve the environment, there are seeker is very, very broad when it talks about the environment. It also talks about quality of life. It talks about the character of the town. You have to protect those as well. And in a developer's eyes, the character of the town includes developability. And that's the theory that they brought to the Supreme Court in the early 90s in Cortland, and that theory was vindicated. And what that means is, and the warning here, which is correct, when this board passes a law to protect the environment of the town, there are some folks who might view the negative side of that law, as in you're restricting certain activities, as an infringement on the environment of the town. And although it seems odd, you do have a responsibility in your seeker review to take a look at that. So if Mr. Wechstein is saying we might have a problem that you are infringing on the multifamily housing in the town, at some point you should have some sense of whether or not you're doing that. I know you don't want to do that. You don't want to infringe on the multifamily housing in the town. You don't want to wipe it out. You don't want to make the town unaffordable. And you don't want to be seen as doing that, and you certainly don't want to be liable for doing that. So you do have to take this into account as part of your seeker review. And I have to inform you that when towns pass laws to protect the environment, there's a saying that no good deed goes unpunished. And the developers community is very adept, particularly some of the more sophisticated law firms, and Mr. Wechstein is one of them. It belongs to one of them. They're very adept at holding you responsible for not having studied these things. I have personal experience in this. I represented the town of New Paltz during the last decade as the town of New Paltz tried to pass a wetlands law. And we were sued twice. The first time it was successful on a technicality, and the second time it was successful in the Supreme Court, in the lower court, on a very, very broad, almost crazy theory that it was unconstitutional, the wetlands law. And fortunately, that was overturned in the appellate division, and the law was upheld. But the point is, one of the reasons why is because we did a very extensive environmental review, not just how the law was going to protect the birds and the bees in the wetlands, but also to debunk the claim that it was going to damage the developability of the town, that it was going to change the patterns of development in the town. And so my friendly advice is that to protect your own work and to fully protect the town, you should take a look at these issues. You know you're going to get sued. He told you that, and there's no reason to assume otherwise. As I said, no good deed goes unpunished in this area. Towns pay a price for protecting the environment. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it means you need to be careful and thorough. And again, do the sort of work that we did in New Paltz. When you do your negative declaration, I assume you probably would do a negative declaration. There's very, very little chance that a law like this will cause any significant adverse environmental impact, but you do need to document it. You need to show that you've looked at this. Otherwise, there could be difficult consequences, and Mr. Weckstein's firm is fairly adept at bringing those about. So we do support this legislation. I had some comments on it. They're in writing. I think that it's absurd to claim that this would damage the developability of the town, that it would damage the availability of affordable housing, particularly since the town has codes in it that allow for bonuses for affordable housing in your subdivisions, which his subdivision took advantage of. But you do need to take this into account. And I think I'm sure you're already doing that. I'm sure your counsel is aware of these cases and has told you, but I want it on the public record. And that's all I have for now. We look forward to continuing the public hearing next month.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board on this topic? Not seeing any, may I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to September 22nd?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll now move on to the public hearing in the matter of local law number 9 of 2015, amending the subdivision of land and zoning chapters of the town code. Is there anyone who's come to address the board on this issue? Not seeing any, may I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to September 22nd?
We'll move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It's going to go past that too, though. We're going to extend the public hearing into October, so don't worry about it.
We'll move on to announcements. Is there any announcements?
No, I think that we had such a great thing tonight. I do want to remind everybody that there is the run walk this weekend, Ossining Matters. You go to the community center, you can register online, probably getting close to when you can't register online, but you can still register in person at the community center for the annual run walk, 5K run, 2-mile walk, and it's always a good time had by all. And on right after that, there's going to be some free Zumba lessons and some yoga, I believe, at the Market Square. So it's going to be an exciting, healthy Saturday, and we should all take part in that as a community effort. Yes, ma'am.
September 22nd is one of the most revered day in the Jewish calendar. I doubt you would have your attorney here.
And as I stated before, the public hearings will go on 2 weeks later after that again.
Okay. Well, as long as you're fine with having a public meeting without your attorney,
I think that's his prerogative, but I think
Yeah,
that, you know.
I understand, but
Okay?
it's kind of,
Yeah.
I feel it's offensive.
Oh, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Okay. Okay.
You wouldn't have it on Christmas?
Thank you, okay? But we will continue the public hearings.
Do we have any public comments on any agenda items? Move on the adoption of the resolutions. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated August 25th, 2015, in the amount of $359,153.30. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes the town justices and town supervisor to submit a 2016 Justice Court Assistance Program application to the New York State Office of Court Administration with a request not to exceed $30,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is a yearly grant that the courts are allowed to buy equipment, and it's they get $30,000, up to $30,000 per year.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes the town clerk to advertise a request for bids for the conversion of a surplus 2007 Freightliner U.S. Army 10-wheeler truck tractor into a heavy-duty dump body and furnish and install a Duraglass body, all according to the specifications outlined in the legal notice to bidders and a bid packet. The bid shall be submitted no later than 10 a.m. on Monday, October the 5th, to the office of town clerk. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is I just want to bring everybody up to date. We had the honor, really, to receive a Army truck. It's the cab, and we need to convert that cab into a 10-wheel truck, which will allow us to transport things like blacktop and everything, whereas right now they make 3 and 4 trips. They can do everything in one trip when they're bringing it out to do spot things, and we're excited about that, and we're interested to see how this bid comes in on the conversion of this.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas a written petition dated August 27th, 2015, in due form and containing the required signature has been presented by Nora Ellison to the town board of the town of Ossining, Westchester County, New York, for the extension of the Ossining Consolidated Sewer District in said town, and where said premises are known as 73 Morningside Drive, Ossining, New York, and also known as Section 90.15-1-6 on the tax map of the town of Ossining, and whereas the improvements proposed for said sewer district extension consist of the construction and installation of a sewer system, including sewer main, manhole, and other improvements incidental thereto, all as more described in the map and plan accompanying the aforesaid petition, which map and plan are on file in the town clerk's office of said town for public inspection during regular business hours. And whereas the cost of establishing such sewer district extension shall be borne entirely by the petitioner, and whereas it is now desired to call a public hearing to consider the petition for the proposed establishment of said sewer district extension pursuant to Section 193 of the town law, as well as for purposes of determining the environmental impact of said action, now therefore be ordered by the town board of the town of Ossining, Westchester County, New York, as follows. Section 1. A meeting of the town board of the town of Ossining, Westchester County, New York, shall be held at the police court facility, 8688 Spring Street, in Ossining, New York, on the 22nd day of September at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of conducting a public hearing to consider the aforementioned petition and to hear all persons interested in the subject thereof concerning the same. Section 2. The town's clerk is hereby authorized and directed to cause a certified copy of this order to be published in the Gazette and posted in the manner provided by law. And Section 3. This order shall take effect immediately. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015, at 7:35 p.m. in the Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street in Ossining, for the purpose of adding a chapter entitled Architectural Review Board to the Town Code. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I want to note that that one will not be, it will be adjourned till the next meeting too, for people that are celebrating their holiday.
All those in favor?
I'm not
Aye.
sure,
Opposed?
not sure it's celebrating, so, that are
Observing.
observing, thank you. Better word.
Correspondence to be received and filed. We have none today. We, however, do have monthly reports. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of August 2015. Town Clerk's Office, Town Supervisor's Office, GE, Crotonville Helicopter Report, Town Building Department, Dale Cemetery, and Town Tax Receiver's Office. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That completes your resolutions for this evening. We'll now open it to visitor recognition. Is there anyone who's come to address the board?
Hi, Liz Feldman, Ossining Boat and Canoe Club. I just wanted to remind everybody that after the race on Saturday, we're also having a Hudson River Fun Day for kids.
This Saturday is the race?
This
Oh,
Saturday, after the Ossining Matters race.
I think boat race when you say.
Right, no, we had the boat race yesterday. We're having a Ossining Family Fun Day. New York Life is doing child identification kits. The police boat's going to be there. Fire truck's going to be there. The Wobble Cafe will be available for food. There's a lot of games and crafts and story time and fishing and a lot of kid-friendly activities for the river.
And what time you're starting?
We're starting after the race, so we're starting 11 to 4 p.m.
Okay.
And then also
After
Friday,
we exercise too.
after you exercise, you come, let the kids get some.
I was going to say, did you clarify where?
Yeah,
I'm
the
sorry,
Ossining
did-
Boat and Canoe
okay,
Club.
sorry.
Okay. That's why I thought it was a boat race, right? Right.
Okay, yes, at the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club from 11 to 4 on the 12th.
Okay.
Also, after the 9/11 memorial service at the
Thank you,
Lewis
sir.
Engle Park, that's at 7 o'clock, the memorial service. 8 o'clock, we have a historical lecture by Miguel Hernandez in the boat club, and it's free, and everybody's welcome to attend.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any flyers for the
Family Fun Day?
Family Fun Day?
I do, right in my car and on my phone.
Can you electronically send it to us?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board?
Hi, my name is Dana Leffenberg. I live at 18M Milton Place. I just wanted to let everybody know that IFCA and the Ossining Microfund have partnered to offer some workshops to families and individuals in Ossining who are interested in learning more about savings, banking, how to get prepare for your first loan, and they're going to be offered in this 4 separate workshops starting this Thursday evening at 7 p.m. at Park School. I believe it'll be in the cafeteria and also in the library. There will be childcare available as well as Spanish translation. So it'll start on September 10th, and I can also send you the flyers for that, and it'll be every week following. And I do believe it's already on the Ossining Web Blast, but I'll send it to you as well, okay?
Please.
Thank you.
Yeah, we put it on the supervisor's blast this last weekend. Anybody else? Not seeing anyone?
Not seeing anyone. Might we have an adjournment to an executive session for legal advice?
Adjourned to executive session for legal advice.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I think that Liz Feldman brought it up at perfect timing, that on Friday at Lewis Engle Waterfront Park at 7 p.m. we will be having a service of remembrance for 9/11. We will have our first responders there from the village of Ossining, the village of Briarcliff Manor, and the town of Ossining. And we encourage you all to join us down there. It's approximately a half an hour to 40 minutes long, the service, and it's very, very moving. It's very well done. So we hope to see you down at the waterfront on Friday at 7 p.m. and then the walk run on Saturday, the exercise, and then down to the boat and canoe club for it's not fall family fun day, it's just family fun day. Right. So a lot of things going on this weekend, but we're going to take a few moments out on Friday night to do a remembrance of 9/11, as we do every year.
I do have one.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
You-
When you're done.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You make some.
Am I good? Senator Carlucci will be implementing a student advisory council for all students who reside in the greater Ossining area. So that would be the village of Ossining, the town of Ossining, and the village of Briarcliff. It does not matter where the child actually goes to school, as long as they reside in this area. We're looking basically for 8th to 12th graders. And the first meeting of that student advisory is going to be on September, as soon as my calendar gets in, it's going to be September 24th, and it will be at be held at the library, the Ossining Public Library. It will be from 4:30 till 6 o'clock. We have a flyer and an application, and you can always contact the office at 941-2041 for additional information. I do believe that the school districts are sending out that information, but maybe we can do that from the town as well. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I can put that up on the bulletin board.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you for, I thought this was a very excellent meeting tonight. I enjoyed opening it up with receiving the Purple Heart, John Clark's Purple Heart for the Historical Society. I want to thank John Wunderlich for coming. I want to thank everybody that participated tonight and the young man that came all the way down from Vermont to do this. I thought it was very exciting. So have an enjoyable week. We hope to see you Friday at the Remembrance Service and Saturday at the Run Walk and all the other activities that are going on. Thank you.